All right, we got ourselves a fun little multiplayer battle here. It is going to be a Rus mirror match on the Black Forest map. Now, this is going to be pretty fun, as you'll be seeing here with the Rus, you get a lot of benefits when it comes to, of course, harvesting any and all animals. That's the big thing with the Rus, right? You want to take advantage of your total bounties. So the first thing I've done here is jump on some sheep, and I was lucky enough to have a lot of sheep around me. Now, again, with the Rus, you have a little bit of a different build order than you do with a lot of the other factions. A lot of other factions, of course, are going to be focusing on gold and food. That's what's going to get you to that second age. So we already have our workers producing. We're going to get a house up and going. Taking a look over our opponent, they are doing the same thing. Blind Rain also running on the Rus as well. Now, I am no master of the multiplayer realm. I am just getting my feet wet, so hopefully you can learn from some of my mistakes, some of the things that I did to kind of pull out a win here or a loss. You'll find out soon. And you will hopefully be able to get better at the game. Now, again, like I said, I am not a multiplayer god, but I can help you step through some of the things that we did. Now, we have a ton of sheep. Typically, I would have herded them to this building, but I wanted to get this hunting cabin up and going. You want to really minimize as much downtime as possible. Things like creating your houses as fast as possible and keeping your sheep. Like right now, all these villagers are not doing anything, but I herded them over to this hunting cabin, and we got our villagers heading over here to do some gathering. Now, the big thing with the Rus, like I was talking about, is this bounty, right? You're trying to get the gold that you can from hunting, well, animals. And as soon as I produce this hunting cabin, you want to make some scouts. And with those scouts, you want to start going to the locations around the map and picking off these deer. Now, the nice thing is the deer, their carcasses won't decay, so later in the game you can pick them up, you can harvest them with your villagers, whatever it is. And if you're not playing against the Rus, this can be kind of nice because you've killed them off, and maybe your opponent doesn't want to extend out to grab them, or maybe didn't even realize that they can. So going over here, we're going to kill some deer, and looking at this, deer give us 10 gold per kill. And what do you've got here? 2, 4, 6, 7 deer in this one location. I think it's something like 7 per deer hunting location. So that's a lot. It's 70 gold per, in addition to the sheep that you're killing. This is going to push me into tier 1 pretty quickly, which is going to increase that food harvest rate by 5% and give me a hunting cabins generate gold every 27 seconds, reducing that per tier down to 18 seconds. Now, looking back at my base here, we pretty much are just locking down wood and food, right? If I go over here to our resources income per minute here, this is a really good indication of what's going on. You can see that Blind Rain really has a leg up on me when it comes to wood and gold production. And he's doing a great job of kind of capitalizing on all of his sheep. He's spreading his scout around, trying to discover things here and there. I'm doing the best I can to try and find other deer, not factories, but deer hunting locations around the map. And at the same time, always trying to produce as many workers as I can. You can see there are definite times when my micro just falls off and I don't produce those workers. A quick way to check this would just be to press H, and this will immediately jump you back to your town center. And like I said, you want to make sure you're maximizing this as much as possible. And another big thing here with the Rus is that you get the ability to increase the production on their lumber camps. So making a wooden fortress by this lumber camp early would have been beneficial for me. I'm sorry, I was saying that I was behind Blind Rain in wood and gold. I am ahead of him, but behind him in food. And that is honestly something that I've struggled with a lot in trying to keep my food production up, and it's something that you really need to worry about, especially depending upon which faction you're playing, because food production is so crucial to those tier 2 units. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of fast forward just a little bit here, not too much. But again, the name of the game here is getting into the second age as fast as possible. We're coming up to that 5-minute point, so we do want to see how we can kind of push that forward there. So going ahead and making more and more villagers onto wood and food. You can see my opponent here has found my base, is just running through. I had thought he stole my sheep, and I was very upset at this point. So I sent my 3 scouts to go and try and kill him. Now, with Black Forest, you have the benefit of it being having a lot of choke points. And my opponent is already taking advantage of this. With the Rus, you get the fortified palisade wall. Now, a typical wooden wall anyone can do damage to. A fortified palisade wall, anyone can do damage to as well, but it has 3,000 health versus a stone wall having 5,000 health, and only siege weapons can do damage to it. So you do have some trade-offs. You cannot make stone walls, but you have the ability to make very strong walls in the early portions of the game, which is a strong tactic for the Rus. You can pretty much cordon off your base quickly, use your tier 2 upgrade building of the Kremlin, and have a nice ability to turtle very quickly. So just getting some early harass here as I tried to kill his scout, but for the most part it's going to be a turtling game. I've started to cordon off my location, and it looks like I'm also making a wooden fortress. Like I was saying, this is what's going to give us a 20% increase on our wood return for our villagers. Something that I should have made earlier, and I believe my opponent took advantage of. Maybe he did not. No, he did not. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit more here. Finally getting our 3 villagers aside to progress up to the next age. I'm going to go with a Kremlin. Now the Kremlin is going to be nice because it's going to just give me a nice, good, strong defensive structure. And it also acts as a fortress. So if I want to expand to do more lumber work over here or down over here, I've got the capability to do so because of this nice Kremlin. Pushing forward here, we're getting very quickly into the next age. I like to only use 3 to 4 workers to work on my landmarks. You can use more. If you're China, you get the advantage of being able to press through the next age even quicker. But in my experience, anything more than that really kind of starts to hinder you. Now, after I jump into the second age, the big thing I wanted to do here was make a push towards military infrastructure. You really need to be focusing on military infrastructure because this allows you to put pressure on your enemy. As you can see too, I was not working on the micro of my food production, and as you can see, that also fell behind. My biggest Achilles heel, like I keep saying, is my food production. It's the thing I suffer with the most with micro, and I probably should have been making this hunting cabin over here even earlier to start getting a lot of really good, secure food income from these fish. So I rectify this in just a little bit. But the big thing here I'm trying to do is I realize that this is a mirror match. And with the Rus, we get access to early knights, which are quite good. Now, they are outclassed by the French cavalry, so they can't really trade very well into that, but they are very strong nonetheless. So the first order of business here is creating some early knights. This will act as a means for me to push into the enemy, but at the same time, if my enemy looks at these knights and goes, okay, well, I'm going to have to counter these with spearmen, I'm already producing a ton of archers to counter those spearmen. So this was kind of like a feint I had planned of trying to go heavy with knights and then trying to use archers to support them. Across the other way, you can see my opponent has built up a number of fortifications. They've got some spearmen, and they've already progressed to the second age using their Kremlin as a defensive location, or I'm sorry, defensive structure for this location in their walls. But across the way, using the Black Forest map to the best of his advantage, he's building these palisade walls while I only have 2 right there and there. And this is, again, the first time I've used this map, so this is something that I'm learning, right? I'm discovering, oh, this is a map that's great with choke points. Another really good faction that works very well with choke points would be the Holy Roman Empire. So I'm just going to keep this up for a little bit so you can see that now I'm starting to pull ahead with some gold, realizing that in a previous game I was suffering very heavily from gold income. Even though the Rus do get the advantage of being able to get gold bounties from creatures, you don't want to focus on that throughout the second age. You want to start getting onto some gold and stone as best you can. Now getting a little tiny push over here, trying to scope out their wall, see what's going on. You can tell at this point I haven't seen their wall, so I haven't seen what's going on. So I'm trying to just kind of scope out, see if there's any openings I can take advantage of, and maybe harass some of the economy of my opponent, kill some villagers, do some action there. And again, I did not want him to see all of my archers, so I just used the knights to kind of push forward. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit and continuing to produce more knights, keeping, again, a nice cavalry presence. The good thing about the Rus is they also get some horse archers. They have a very nice wide range of units to take advantage of. So I wanted to use that to the best of my ability. Coming over here, just trying to say, okay, well, we can't get in. Might as well try to torch open a gate. And we attacked this one right here. And you can see it's 3,000. Without the ability to actually do damage using a battering ram or siege equipment, it can take a long time to take out even just these fortified palisade gates. My opponent, though, jumps into that there fortress, starting to pluck away at me. Didn't want to take too much damage here, though. Try and get a good trade. He lanced into one of my knights, took out 2 of his spearmen, but continuing the reign of hell upon that palisade. And one thing I should have really been managing here is the individual health of these units. I saw that guy, I pulled him back, but we just lost a knight haphazardly when I should have pulled him back. That's some gold resource you just don't really want to be using in the early game to just exhaust away randomly. But as soon as I saw this second wall being built, I was like, all right, there's nothing I can do here. It is time to turtle up and make an effort later. So coming back to my base, I've made some fishing boats take advantage of, again, this food resource. Yeah, like I said, big thing is always make sure you're taking a look at this. Make sure you don't have any idle villagers. It's just going to basically be resources wasted, right? If you're constantly producing these villagers, you can see that we're constantly battling back and forth. My food production's pretty low because I had 11 villagers just chilling there. And let's go ahead and just pause this real quick, or we'll go super slow. With the Rus, some things that I did was take advantage of the fact on a Black Forest map, you are surrounded by trees. So with the Rus, the hunting cabin will generate gold for you based off of the number of trees that are around it. Now, the cabins as a whole will max out at 250 gold, but you can see that this is netting me 28 gold a minute here. This one down over here is netting me another 42. So taking advantage of the trees around you as the Rus is pretty crucial because this gives you basically a passive gold income that you can just rely on outside of the gold income that I'm receiving from this right here. So just a kind of a nice little tip here for the Rus. A lot of people will just make these all over the map because it's a nice, quiet, and safe means of just gathering tons of gold. But at this point, I realize, you know, food production's still really low. Yes, we're taking fishing, but I've researched the technology now for scouts to grab all of the carcasses that we created across the map. And to be totally honest here, the reason I did this is because I saw my opponent Blind Rain doing it. So I was like, oh, good point. Now, we've progressed into the Castle Age. We've made the hunting lodge over here. This is going to give us more passive food income as we drop off these deer carcasses. And the big objective here with these scouts, scouts are really valuable with the Rus because you're going to be hunting down these bounty targets, and it again is going to help you out in the long run. But the nice thing too was with these scouts, I basically created an ability to, he sucked up all of the deer over here, but I then go over here and suck these deer up as well. And this allowed me to pretty much kind of like monopolize the deer food income on the map. And it's finally at a point where I am almost all green right here, pulling ahead of him income per minute very substantially in everything. But that does not mean that he did not have a trick up his sleeve. Blind Rain had a nice little army produced, and this is another big thing that I kind of suffer from and that I learned really heavily in this game is I can get tunnel vision too much on either microing or, well, yeah, microing my military or microing my economy. And as a result, I really don't have much production, right? I'm making some horses here, and that's really nice, I suppose. I do have a little standing army right here, but it hasn't progressed up much since our early age. And we are now in the third age. What I should have been doing is making a monastery. Once you jump into that third age, you want to be able to take advantage of relics as soon as possible, because if you don't, your opponent will. And that is passive income of either gold or the resources, assuming you make that jump in technology. Doing a little killing over here of a boar because boar gives us a nice 75 jump in that gold tier, trying to get us up to tier 3. Getting to tier 3 as quick as possible is pretty advantageous because, like, again, you can take a look. You're getting a much faster rate of gold, and your 15% villager food rate harvesting is going to help me kind of stay ahead of that curve in something that I already suffer in, which is food. Now, jumping back over here, we're going to go ahead and speed up a little bit. Making sure that I don't get population blocked is also a big thing. You want to make sure you're producing a house as you get close to this top end. Now, over here is when I realized, you know, oh man, my opponent has a monk and he's going for relics. That's exactly the point in which I made a monastery. Now, I was a little too reactive to that, and it resulted in me being pretty slow to the draw on relics. Again, if you are slow to the draw, that's okay. You can still kind of make a recovery here, but making sure that that's front of mind in the third age is a pretty big key thing in my opinion. Speeding up a little bit more though, Getting my horse archers over here, just try to lock down this relic, trying to keep it for myself. Don't want to get too close to these this wall here, don't want to get them picked off unnecessarily, and pushing the rest of my military over here because I was not quite really sure how this would go. Waiting for it. It's going to start getting really spicy here as we're progressing up to the 4th age. Remember, only 3 or 4 workers producing our next building. Now, with the building we've gone with is the High Armory. The High Armory here is going to be giving us a decrease to the cost of siege engines in nearby siege workshops. It has to be made in the influence aura of this bad boy, but it also gives us unique siege engine technologies that are really good. Like the Bombard one is very strong, and the Battering Ram one, which makes it even faster. And it's a really, really strong tech. I like it a lot. Economically, though, we're doing very well for once. We have very strong food production, and that is on it. Like, look how much food we've got. Look how much wood we've got. That's something that I should have maybe been taking advantage of, making a market to try and sell stuff to get more gold, or producing more units in mass. And we got some aggression here coming in. Go ahead and bring that down. And my opponent here has got a relic, so that is wary, right? We can't just rush into this. We don't want to get WOLOLO'd and have our entire force just get snatched up. So battering rams coming in, just destroying this gate, doing heavy damage into it, and I've brought my archers to man the tower. Now, maybe a good upgrade here would have been the Springald emplacement to add a nice defensive Springald, giving us the ability to smash these things apart, but torching them is going to be the big objective here, right? Getting those battering rams offline, because look how much damage they do per shot. Actually, I can't focus on that one, but they were doing about, like, I think it's like 200 damage per hit. If you look at them, they do 200. There you go. Going in for trying to convert the rams. That's the big thing here. I was like, okay, I'll shut these rams down. But this is when I realized rams cannot be converted, which was brutal. And now here's the interesting thing. You cannot, let's go ahead and slow that down to the point where we actually pause it. So you cannot move your monk once you started a WOLOLO, right? Your conversion. But you can push them. And that's something that I don't know whether or not my opponent intended to do it, and something I learned after the fact. But that was pretty crucial here, because you saw this whole little pocket of my units. I was like, oh man, I'm going to get fully converted right there. So it forced a lot of pressure into me to fall back into my base, allowing these rams to come down and into me. Very scary there for a split second. Go ahead and speed that up. And he was able to get that off, and he converted these 2 knights and then my scouts. So it was not the deadly conversion it once was at the beginning of this engagement. We were able to pull out of it, but nonetheless, we've got 4 battering rams that are hot and heavy in our base. We have just got, what, we got 7 knights, and we've got 14 horse archers, which we can hopefully try to stem the tide here. We do have the support of 11 more archers, but we don't have any means of destroying these things very succinctly. It's going to be coming down to torching almost exclusively. But there's 2 relics on the field, 1 warrior monk in each of us. Their warrior monk just went down, dropping that relic, which is pretty huge for me. Makes it so we can't be doing another conversion. Another age coming in here, locking us into that 4th age here ahead of our opponent, which is quite nice. And we're starting to kind of fight back the tide. But take a look at this. Still, he's got these battering rams just taking out both of my stables, coming in now onto my archery range. And it's a matter of just trying to torch these down as fast as possible. Remember, the Rus do get a benefit to using these. They can really take advantage of that speed if they get the landmark up and running, and they also get these blacksmith capability to make them. 1 ram down before it could do some serious damage to my town center, but we also have 1 of my archery rangers going down. I've rebuilt the 2 stables that are just crushed, but we still have the pressure of these 3 battering rams, and on top of it, we're about to see some dreaded reinforcements. So he's coming in with how many? About 4 units of men-at-arms and some crossbowmen. The crossbowmen are going to eat up my heavy melee knights here. Now, they have progressed up to tier 3 knights, but not tier 4, as we have just hit into tier 4. And watch this, man. The crossbows, they are getting dealt some damage here by my horse archers, but the men-at-arms are killing my archers, so I can't trade back into it very effectively. They're going to start doing tons of damage now to my knights, because they have a brutal amount of damage, right? They do 6 + 6 to heavy, so that's 18 damage hitting a knight in the face that his armor is not going to be able to fully mitigate. And now we have got no more units. We just were able to produce 2 more knights, maybe putting a little more added pressure here, but the unfortunate thing is we don't have any barracks, and without any barracks, we don't have any men-at-arms, although men-at-arms are still countered very well by the crossbowmen. It is really not looking too good here. I went in like kind of a hurry and made up a wooden fortress because I figured, okay, this will at least give me some staying power while I try to produce some countering units. The countering units in mine were the Streltzia, and they just got gunned down right here. And even more reinforcements are coming in from my opponent. So we see some more horse archers, we see more men-at-arms, and a nice little contingent of crossbowmen, still pouring on lots of pressure. The advantage is here, though, we did destroy those battering rams, giving us a little bit of breathing room. But what's this? What's this? We get a little sneak in here of the Warrior Monk going in with a last-minute WOLOLO, trying to get a little conversion in. It's going down, and then it just barely goes off, converting the entire army minus that horse archer. That is the turning point for me. Like, had that not happened, my entire base would have just been completely crushed there. So, but the game is not over yet. You know, we got a nice little clutch play, but that is by no means the end of the game, because that definitely shut my economy down for a little bit. And you can see that Blind Rain was able to pull ahead in wood and in gold. He's still producing quite happily over here. I had to shut everything down to try and make defensive buildings, to try and rebuild my military infrastructure. So that is kind of the double-edged sword here. Now I figure, okay, hey, we just got a nice little conversion. We've probably just crippled his military. Let's get a little bit of a push in. But at this point, you know, I kind of realized something. I don't have the ability to make battering rams. And that is something that you should really be mindful of, especially if you're playing against the Rus. Give yourself an ability to destroy these actual walls. Your men are not going to do it. As you can see, I mean, we're in the 4th age. These are still tier 3 men-at-arms and tier 3 knights. And they're not going to be able to crack open these gates. Even though they're still only wooden gates and anyone can attack them, they are still durable enough to withstand those torches. So now it's a little bit of a game of catching up. We have to build a secondary wall just as he did. We need some insulation because the big thing here is going to be coming down to a race of arms. Looking at the income per minute, we stabilized out with our income, pushing our food, wood, and gold back up very substantially. And looking down over here, you can see I've got a huge surplus of these things. So if you find yourself in this situation, sure, yeah, you could go for the wonder victory. But the big thing that I was not taking advantage of is using all this surplus. I had just simply 2 archery ranges, 2 barracks, and 2 stables. I think I hadn't even made my siege workshop yet. So this is something that you should be really taking advantage of as you hit this 4th age with this massive surplus of resources. Build more military infrastructure. You can't put pressure on your opponent if you cannot make the units to put the pressure onto them with. But getting some horse archers out. Again, I actually really enjoy the horse archers for the Rus. They don't have any bonuses versus anything, but at 12 bow range damage and a really good speed, they're a very strong unit that can work in conjunction with the Heavy Knight. Now, the Heavy Knight can also get the benefits of a lot of really good upgrades here. The Knight Sabers, there's another one here as well that increases the health. I think it's by 20, but the Sabers increases that melee damage by 4, making them some of the best perpetual combat knight variant. If you just talk about staying in there and swinging with their swords, they have very high damage. Also upgrading to elite in conjunction with the upgrades on the horse archers makes for a very strong force. But now we've got a good amount of men-at-arms. We still have some good crossbowmen, and we have a nice little mobile force here. Still working on both the upgrades to elite and the mounted precision, which increases the weapon range of the horse archers by 2, which is a nice little upgrade here. If you take a look at that default, it's a 4.5 title range. This would put it at a 6.5, which would outrange your standard archer unit. So that's a nice little range benefit there. But my opponent is pooling up for another dreaded battering ram charge. He has a relic in tow. Now, one thing to kind of take a look at here is the Warrior Monk. The Warrior Monk for the Rus is quite strong. They get this, the Saint's Blessing. After striking the enemy, the Warrior Monk increases the armor and damage of nearby allied Rus military units for a duration. And you can upgrade it. I think I've already gotten it. You can upgrade it to actually do even more. So be mindful of that because this is a really strong benefit. Not only can the Warrior Monk pick up those relics quickly and just kind of drop a conversion bomb in there for you, but it also gets the benefit of being able to buff your units, making them a lot stronger. So my opponent has pushed forward into the 4th age as they are starting to catch up. Taking a look at looking at my stockpile here, it's pretty brutal how much I'm just kind of sitting on. And my opponent here is behind production-wise as far as income per minute. I'm pretty substantially ahead of that. But going in for some sacred site grabbing, Blind Rain snatches the bottom sacred site over here. And of course, as you snatch both sacred sites, you then have to wait 5 minutes, I believe it is, before a victory can occur. You've got that as a victory condition outside of destroying the enemy's landmarks or building a wonder. First to do one of those 3 will win. So securing this sacred site, kind of pushing them back off of it again. I am a little wary, you know, I see this relic there. I don't want to jump and fully commit to a fight where I won't be able to get out in time, especially if he was able to pin me into the conversion range of those of that warrior monk. So I bring in some cavalry reinforcements here, give me some ranged some mobile capabilities. Kind of just prod him back and forth, looking at each other. He's going for the other sacred site up here as well. Spreading my cav out to hopefully give a little flank charge as well. And then here come those battering rams, just fully committing in. So right here, I noticed that this guy's health is very low. So I committed everyone to attacking that warrior monk. Get it down as fast as possible. That was the big push, I'm sure, of trying to get that big conversion. That would have been devastating for me right here. And what that allowed us to do is free up my now men-at-arms to jump in onto his men-at-arms, which are a rank below us. Take a look. See, they're rank 3. We're rank 4, so we've got more armor, more health, and we're doing more damage. Getting some torching into here. I'm not as worried about the horse archers here now. Now that we've shut down the majority of his fighting power, it's pretty much just a chance of torching these battering rams, which are not even going to do much damage to me anyway, and doing damage to his heavier units. I'm at 1, I'm at half, okay. He gets a field trebuchet online though, not going to be doing a ton of damage to me. Mangonels are really what you're going to focus on to do damage to units, but they still do some damage, of course, you know, 150 siege damage with 300 versus buildings. But look at this, man. The dreaded Streltsy firing line, just destroying and obliterating my elite men-at-arms. Now, trying to get a little bit of range damage in from those elite horse archers was an interesting play for me because I didn't really know how to counter this at first. I was kind of like, what do I do with these Streltsy here? I'm not sure how to do it. And the battering rams, the last one finally just kind of pops right there. Now, with the Streltsy, take a look at them. They do so much damage, and I'm going to actually slow this down to talk about this really quick. 45 raw damage is pretty brutal, but as they stayed in place, they're going to increase their attack speed up to a max of 30% and get an additional 9 to that damage. That is brutal. Bring it up to 51 at the top end. But look at this, man. Just gunning me down. A full Last Samurai moment. You have my glorious men-at-arms charging in there, trying to do some damage, trying to get some kills onto these Streltsy, but they are just getting gunned down helplessly. Even the last one here trying to get away just can't make it, and the Streltsy kind of win the day right there. And that's a big thing of like when you realize that your opponent has kind of teched heavy into a specific unit, you kind of have to think to yourself, okay, how do I counter this unit? What is the best way around this? And for me, coming back to my base, I kind of look at, okay, I still am low in my military production, and I'm going to focus maybe a little bit more on horse archers. We still have to deal, though, with this sacred site that my opponent has captured. We're capturing this one, so we can try to kind of get some sort of sacred victory. What my goal here is, capturing both of these sacred sites will allow me to put pressure onto my opponent, and I've got some more warrior monks in here, picking up this relic and bringing it back to my base for some more passive goodies. We'll just kind of watch, see what happens for a little bit. Fast forward that, as there's kind of a little dancing right now. And there you go. That sacred site is captured, which is going to give us some more passive gold income. That's always good, right? But again, sitting on so many, it's such a huge surplus here. And we're just about to capture this sacred site as well. Remember, you do need a religious unit to capture sacred sites. You cannot just do it by walking onto them, but you can uncap them or neutralize them with just any generic unit. We've finally got ourselves a blacksmith. We have researched the ability to make battering rams, which is nice. And one thing you should really know, though, or be focusing, got a quick little kill on that warrior monk. You should be focusing with your blacksmith is upgrades. I didn't touch my upgrades until I think later in the game, but it's a shortcoming of mine too, is getting too much of a blinders on and not really focusing on the things that make my units more, you know, impactful pound for pound. Like we were seeing those elite men-at-arms trade into the tier 3 men-at-arms because they just do more damage and they can mitigate more damage quickly. And at this point I kind of realized, oh, I have so much actual resources. Why don't we do some strong pushing against the Streltsy? And the Streltsy, the big way to do it was the mangonels. Mangonels are going to allow me to attack any infantry unit that is tightly packed. They're such a strong counter to them, and that's why why China can be so devastating. So keeping an eye on mangonels and their production when you are getting pushed by stuff like a massive Streltsy is really huge. But also another good counter for Streltsy is a ton of other Streltsy. So let's see how this kind of plays out here, because you can see we're kind of pinned up against the wall. We do have this sacred site, which is nice, but my opponent has pushed into this sacred site and they have a grip of Streltsy versus my not so equipped army. I mean, sure, I've got a lot of men-at-arms. Got 11, but you saw what happened to my other group of men-at-arms, right? They were just gunned down so quickly. But they've got some counterweight trebuchets as well, and some springalds. Springalds are really your anti-siege equipment. They're going to do a lot of damage against other siege engines very quickly because they have a very nice fire time, 3.3 attack speed versus, of course, the counterweight trebuchet, which is a 12.5. So this is going to allow them to do a lot of quick damage to siege equipment and knock it out of the game. They're really more snipers than they are, you know, okay, this is going to be destroying buildings. My mangonel is going to be doing burst damage. My bombard will just do damage to everything. So you have to really kind of use springalds very pointedly. Coming up to that population block here, though, and we also not microing all these villagers just hanging out. We just make a ton of houses because we still have to produce an army for this oncoming horde of Rus on Rus action. So, taking advantage here of this mechanic, it's going to allow us to set up and tear down our trebuchets and mangonels quicker, and we also have to research this capability here too. I'm sorry, this one, greased axles. Increase the movement speed of siege engines by 20%, because, yeah, it's great if the siege engine is trying to get in place, but if it takes so much damage before it can, it's not going to be as advantageous. So getting these specific, really key siege technology upgrades is huge. Yeah, I mean, this one's great, reducing the reload time, but being able to move and set up quickly is almost way more important because it allows you to take less damage in transition towards your enemy, and you can actually pour it out quicker. So waiting for my army to build up, trying to build up some Streltsy. We've got 15 total right now. He has still a huge contingent of them. And we are also have a nice little bracket of horse archers and knights. This will give us some much needed pressure to make it so that my Streltsy aren't just trading into his and just being completely killed off in droves. Let's kind of speed this up just a little bit here. We do have some warrior monks. Again, they do give us benefits. We are the Rus, and we have a relic on this warrior monk too to help out with some conversions if at all possible. And really, it's just maximizing this military infrastructure. If I had made these buildings ahead of time, it would have given me a chance to really get a strong push into my opponent. Alright, starting to get some shots in from their springalds, some prodding shots in from their trebuchets as well. Oh, there goes a warrior monk, just taking a springald right to the face here. And I'm trying not to commit too much or not to reveal too much because I think for him, he can't see everything quite as much. But he's close enough. We're going to make a charge in with our knights to absorb the majority of the shots. We're going to get our mangonels into range, and let's just kind of see how this plays out here. And watch that, just each and every mangonel shot just ripping into these Streltsy. My Streltsy now pouring into it as well. And it is a just crushing blow into my enemy. That scores me the victory and pushes me ahead in this Rus mirror match. So hopefully you enjoyed this little jump here into the Black Forest playing on the Rus on Rus action. I've got some more of these battles I'd love to show you guys. One including some big mistakes that I made playing as the Rus against the French. But again, just to really quickly recap here, if you're playing as the Rus, make sure you do really take advantage of those hunting cabins, right? What's going to give you that passive gold generation as you increase your bounty. Make sure you're making enough scouts that allow you to go and kill any of the wild animals on the map, especially, of course, deer. That deer production being slowed down from your enemy is always quite nice. And then later, in around your second or third age, I would say your second age for sure, try and get professional scouts so you can go and gather the deer that you killed earlier and bring them back to your base. You want to focus on boosting up that bounty, right? Increasing that bounty to increase your gold generation and your villager harvesting rate. And then when you jump into the second age, focus on your military infrastructure. If you are playing a faction that is really going to suffer fighting against a lot of early knights, then take advantage of it. If you are playing in a match, maybe say against the French, then make a lot of spearmen. You're going to want to take advantage of that. But with the nice thing with the Rus, those early knights who do then get pretty strong with Boyar's fortitude, getting a nice plus 20 to their health, and knight sabers. And then in the third age, remember to build a monastery to take advantage of any religious unit. If you're the Rus in specific, of course, the warrior monk with its then blessing duration that can last for a little bit longer to get that bonus. But hopefully you learned from some of the mistakes that I made here today. Again, I'm not the most amazing multiplayer player, but I look to do more and more of these battles on the channel and talk more and more about trying to get better at the multiplayer portion of Age of Empires 4. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please by all means leave them in the section below. But have a good one and take care.